I'm Tyler Austin from Gungnir Strategic. Thank you so much for watching. In this video, I'm going to talk about kneeling at the threshold, specifically when slicing out a room. I've been seeing this a lot lately, and I think it is largely being used inappropriately in a lot of cases, at least in my opinion. So what I mean by that is when people are slicing out their angles, right? A lot of times they'll go to a knee and they'll take angles from a knee rather than just stepping in and slicing from a standing position. There are definitely times and places when you want to do that, specifically when you're trying to look and clear low dead space. So for example, if you're slicing out a door that leads to a bathroom, like a commercial bathroom, so you have stalls, it's a good idea to go to a kneel so that way you can look underneath those stalls and see if you can see anybody's feet, right? That's a good way to, or a good reason why you would kneel at the threshold. Another one would be if you're looking for looking at high dead space. So for example, we open this door up and I see some sort of loft, right? I can go to a kneel and look to see, to get a better angle up on that loft, as an example, right? You might go to a kneel to look underneath a bed, right? There are different reasons why you might go to a kneel that are good reasons to actually kneel at the threshold. Again, it's to get a better angle at either low dead space or high dead space. Those are good reasons. However, just to do it just because, in my opinion, is not worth the risk. Now, people will say that they like to go to a kneel because if there's somebody in the room and in that angle they're about to take, they're expecting you to be standing rather than kneeling. So it gives you a little bit of surprise, if you will, and maybe potentially better concealment, which I'm not saying that's bad reasoning, okay? Logically speaking, it does make sense. However, there are pretty significant disadvantages to kneeling at the threshold. And one of those reasons, going back to that whole concealment thing, is that you are replacing what would otherwise be your plates with your face. Now, this is going to be somewhat dependent upon your specific body type, right? If you're long-legged, you're going to be able to get lower, like myself, right? I'm pretty long-legged, so when I kneel, I'm going to be able to get lower than somebody who is really long-torsoed. So that's a little bit dependent on, body proportion. However, still, generally speaking, when you go to a kneel, you are more or less replacing where your plates would be with your face. And I'm generally not a big fan of that. But the bigger problem really with kneeling at the threshold is that it significantly limits your mobility. So in the event that you need to bail, right, if I get here, right, and I lean in and I suddenly want to bail for whatever reason, it's a lot slower of a process for me to get up and bail from a kneeling rather than from a standing position, of course. Also, on top of that, in the event that I need to open or close my angle, so if someone's here and he sees me and he decides he doesn't want to be seen by me anymore and he starts to close the angle, in order to maintain control over that person, right, and visual on that guy, right, I need to open the angle on him, basically pursue him. That is a lot more difficult and a lot slower than going from here, right? I see a guy, he starts to close the angle, right, to me to get up. It's much slower. And even worse off if I need to close the angle or collapse the angle. So if I'm the threat and, you snap this angle, right, and I decide I want to open the angle on you, right, this right here is a significant problem, right? He's opening the angle on me, and as a result, I'm getting a lot more exposure, right? So ideally, I want to close the angle, right? So if I'm standing and he begins to move, right, I can very easily close the angle here. Not so much when I'm kneeling. It's a lot slower of a process. So in my opinion, kneeling at the threshold just because it's not a good idea. To me, it's not worth The potential advantage of having that surprise of you're not standing, you're kneeling when you take that angle is not worth the disadvantages of not only putting my face where my plates would be, but also, more importantly to me, the mobility disadvantages to it. So it's just something to think about. Again, I'm not saying not to kneel in thresholds. Again, there are times and places to kneel at thresholds. If I need to look under low dead space, or I need to look up at like a loft or something, yes, those are appropriate times to kneel. However, just to kneel, just because I want to kneel and take the angle, generally, at least in my opinion, is not a good idea. There are other times where I would kneel at a threshold too. For example, if I'm doing some sort of offset from a door that's about to open. Yeah, if I'm back down a hallway or something, or back deeper in a room and a different threshold and someone's going to open a door up for me, yeah, I might be kneeling there initially when that door swings open, or I'm behind some other piece of concealment or cover during an offset. That's another good reason or another good time to kneel. But again, kneeling just for the sake of kneeling is just not a good idea, in my opinion. Some people will disagree with me with that. That's fine. But in my opinion, the potential advantages are not worth the risk. I hope you found this video helpful and informative. If you did, please like and subscribe. I am Tyler Austin from Gungnir Strategic. Thank you so much for watching.